Hey there, Trailblazers! So, I know it's kind of really early, but we're already getting some info related to patch 5.0. And I'm guessing you clicked on this video because you're interested in that, right? Well, somehow you've clicked on the perfect video to get all of this juicy info. Today, I'm mainly going to discuss the brand new path coming to the game in version 5, and along with this, we'll also discuss the future playable characters that will potentially follow it during gameplay. But before we begin, let me just give the usual disclaimer that everything discussed here is based on unofficial sources. So none of this is final and things can still change before these updates actually release. With that out of the way, let's get into it without wasting any more of your time. So starting things off, according to several new leaks shared over the past day, Honkai Star Rail is apparently planning to introduce a brand new playable path known as Finality sometime during the version 5X cycle. Now, this is honestly one of the biggest long-term leaks we've received in quite a while. The last time Hoyoverse introduced a completely new path was with Elation, which completely changed how certain teams were built and opened the door for entirely new gameplay mechanics. So naturally, if Finality really is the next playable path, it's probably going to have a similarly huge impact on the game's meta. Unfortunately, that's pretty much all we know for now. The leaks don't mention any gameplay mechanics, what role the path is supposed to fill, or even what kind of characters are expected to use it. Whether Finality ends up focusing on dealing damage, supporting allies, manipulating turns, or introducing an entirely new mechanic altogether is still anyone's guess. However, based on Hoyoverse's track record, I wouldn't expect this path to simply be another variation of the existing ones. Instead, there's a good chance Finality introduces completely new mechanics that encourage players to build teams in ways we haven't seen before. And honestly, that's probably the most exciting part about this leak. It's also worth remembering that every time Hoyoverse has introduced a major gameplay system, they've usually done so with a long-term plan in mind rather than just releasing one or two characters. Remembrance is probably the best recent example of that. It wasn't simply added as another path for players to learn. Instead, it introduced an entirely new archetype that continued to receive support over multiple patches through new characters, relics, and team compositions. Because of that, I wouldn't be surprised if Finality follows a very similar approach. Rather than being limited to just a handful of characters at launch, we could eventually see an entire roster of Finality units spread throughout the version 5 cycle, each bringing something different to the table. That would also give Hoyoverse plenty of opportunities to continue expanding the path's mechanics over time instead of revealing everything immediately. Whenever a new path is introduced, it doesn't just add more characters to summon. It usually changes the entire direction of the game's combat by creating new archetypes while also breathing new life into older characters through future synergies. Now, naturally, the next question is who's actually going to use the Finality path? Well, the leaks unfortunately don't answer that question either, so from this point onward, this is purely my own speculation. The very first character that immediately comes to mind is the long-rumored Kiana XP. For years now, Honkai fans have been waiting for Kiana to finally make her appearance in Star Rail. Considering just how important she is throughout the Honkai franchise, having her debut alongside an entirely new path would honestly make perfect sense. If Hoyoverse wants version 5 to start with as much hype as possible, introducing the Kiana XP as one of the first Finality characters would definitely accomplish that. There's also another reason why I think Kiana has a strong chance of being connected to Finality. Whenever Hoyoverse introduces an incredibly important character from the wider Honkai universe, they usually try to make that debut feel special. Launching Kiana as just another character on an existing path almost feels a little too ordinary considering how iconic she is. Giving her an entirely new path to introduce would immediately make her feel like one of the defining characters of version 5 and would certainly generate an incredible amount of hype across both the Star Rail and Honkai communities. Of course, that's still just speculation, but it definitely feels like something Hoyoverse could do. Next up, we have Welt. More specifically, a potential Welt SP. Another leak released alongside the Finality information claims that version 5 will continue introducing SP versions of older characters, just like we've been seeing throughout the entire 4X cycle. On top of that, the leak also mentions that one of those future SP characters will actually be a member of the Astral Express crew. Out of everyone currently on the Astral Express, I honestly think Welt makes the most sense. He's one of the oldest playable characters in the game. He's deeply connected to the overall Honkai universe, and giving him a modern SP version would be a great way to bring him back into the spotlight. If Hoyoverse really wants to make Finality feel like a major milestone for the game, Welt SP feels like a very believable candidate. Another character I could definitely see receiving a Finality version is Firefly. There's no denying that Firefly is still one of the most popular characters Honkai Star Rail has ever released. Even now, she's consistently one of the characters players ask to see more of. Instead of simply buffing her current version, creating a Firefly SP would allow Hoyoverse to completely redesign her gameplay while keeping everything that made her original version so popular. And if Finality ends up introducing entirely new mechanics, Firefly would be a fantastic character to showcase them. Moving on, we have Kafka. Kafka has remained one of the faces of Honkai Star Rail ever since version 1.0. Although she's received plenty of indirect support over the years, an SP version would allow Hoyoverse to reinvent her kit without replacing the original. I could easily see Kafka SP becoming one of the headline characters for version 5, especially if Hoyoverse wants to bring back one of the game's most recognizable characters in a completely new way. And finally, we have Acheron. Out of everyone I've mentioned so far, Acheron might actually be one of the most exciting possibilities. Her current version already has one of the most unique playstyles in the entire game, so imagining what Hoyoverse could do with an SP version built around an entirely new path is honestly pretty exciting. Whether that means completely different mechanics, a new combat style, or an entirely different role within the team, an Acheron SP would almost certainly become one of the most anticipated characters in the game. Another thing worth considering is that SP characters have given Hoyoverse a unique opportunity to revisit fan-favorite characters without replacing their original versions. Instead of simply releasing stronger upgrades, SP forms tend to completely reinvent how a character plays. That's exactly why I think characters like Welt, Firefly, Kafka, and Acheron make so much sense as potential candidates. Each of them is already incredibly popular, but they're also well established enough that players would probably enjoy seeing a completely fresh interpretation of their gameplay. But anyways, that's pretty much all of the info that we have related to the Finality path and the potential characters that are going to follow this path as well. So if you enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to stay up to date with all the latest Honkai Star Rail leaks, news, and updates. That's it for now, so I'll see you guys in the next video.